Hey, I want to do a quick review on the Ted Bundy Confessions, the series, the docudrama series that's on Netflix currently. And just because I watched it last weekend, I watched all 4 episodes in a row and I just wrote down some thoughts. So just to give a bit of background about me, I did grow up in South Florida in the 1980s, so Ted Bundy was someone that I very much knew. When I was a kid, there was always sort of this underlining, don't go out alone, you might get abducted, and that still kind of lingered, you know, from him and also Adam Walsh. He's John Walsh's son was abducted, and so I grew up knowing this, and so I knew who Ted Bundy was. I even remember the execution. I wasn't there, obviously, I was 12, but I remember how publicized it was. So I wanted to see this, and so I know quite a bit about him. I will say there's no real information about him in this that I didn't know. There was a few little things, but overall, I think it gives a really good summary of this person, of this man, his malicious, his evil acts. It doesn't go so much into the why, but it does delve more into the law enforcement and how he was able to evade certain things. And, you know, Ted Bundy had a lot of advantages in his time because it's the 1970s, it's the free love still movement, people hitchhiked, he was intelligent, there was no DNA evidence, he drove a tan Volkswagen Bug, which many people did. It was like he just blended in. Law enforcement also was not very advanced. There's no internet. So when women started disappearing in Seattle, they didn't think to look in Utah, and they didn't connect the two because the states didn't talk to each other. So it's just also it hints that I had known that he had a girlfriend who broke up with him, and that maybe perhaps the motive behind his murders, they were all like attractive women, 18 to 20-ish, in their 20s, college aged, that maybe he was getting back at her. And you know, this documentary does a good I think demonstration of his narcissism, because he's such a narcissist that he doesn't think anyone else could represent him. So that's why he does it himself. He's like, screw that, I'm doing it myself. I know more than anyone else. I'm smarter than anyone. And that's very evident in what he thinks. And there's a scene, you see him, where he's walking and he's kind of, he's kind of hobbling a little bit, and he has a box in his hand. He's got shackles on it. And you kind of feel sorry for him if you didn't know who he was. I'm not saying I felt sorry for him. I'm saying that if you didn't know who he was able to kind of feign a little the victim, and poor him, you know? And that's how he would have lured his victim. I mean, you have this cute, good-looking, intelligent man who's like, oh, can you help me? And he's feigning an injury, and he finds a young girl to help him, and then, you know, he attacks her. And so that's one of the things that narcissists are very good at, always playing the victim, and you see that a lot in this documentary. So I'll give you some examples. When he is pronounced guilty, he says he can't feel guilt for something he did not do. You know, he's not remorseful. And he gave a quote, and this is a very interesting quote. He said, guilt is a mechanism we use to control people. It is an illusion. It is a kind of social control mechanism, and it is very unhealthy. Now, it's ironic that a serial killer is trying to discuss what's healthy and unhealthy for us, considering he was having sex with dead bodies. But it's interesting that he says this. It's an illusion. It's a source. It's something to control. And that is something a psychopath would say, because if you don't feel guilt, it is an illusion. You know, to him it was. If you don't feel love, if you don't feel a conscience, if you don't feel remorse, what are these things? They're illusions to you. If you don't feel them, they're not real. You know, and then I'm always not impressed, but I'm always amazed, that's the word I meant, when these killers have parents who support them, and his mother just was convinced he was innocent until she hears some confessions of his, and she's there, and they said she was whimpering, and then she just stands up and says, "Oh, who wants apple pie and ice cream?" And it's like, what? This is someone who really doesn't want to admit or deal with the pain and knowing that her son is a psychopathic murderer. It's not something easy to take. But more on how Bundy, in his narcissism, portrayed himself as the victim. He was complaining all the time. It doesn't matter that he's murdered all these people. He's complaining about the light in his cell. He's complaining about the food he's getting. And there's one point he says, "I'm really sick of being locked up." I mean, he's not sad for what he's done. Not at all. And then, I said the execution, I remember it. I remember when they aired it. And you see people showing up. It's like they're having a barbecue. They've got t-shirts they're selling. And I have to admit, there's a part of me that finds that kind of creepy because, yes, while, this man deserved what he got, he's too dangerous to live in society. He needs to be put to death for what he's done. He's escaped twice. This is like a predator, and he needs to be put down. I mean, we put mountain lions down for less than what he's done. So, despite all that, it's still a human life, even if it's a piece of shit. It's still kind of little part of me that's like, ugh, just let's just get it over with. The whole celebrate, I don't know. It's kind of strange. And if you disagree, you can leave a comment. As one investigator said, I just got sick of him. And that is kind of how I felt when I, watched the whole thing. By the end, he's just so ostentatious in his narcissism. He's relentless and just won't, he's very smart in the sense, like, he is interesting to listen to. Like, he could delve philosophically into things, but just his self-righteousness is just amazing in how he's able to just justify it. And that's what narcissists do. I mean, they will fuck with you. They can manipulate you. They will pathologically lie to you, and they will find a way to rationalize it. And you can. I mean, you can rationalize it. If guilt, if you don't feel it, it's an illusion. Here he just said that explains it, And it really is a tragedy because, not only for the victims, obviously, and their families, because, you have this person coming into the world, and to do just damage, to do such damage it's just unreal. And, he had a lot going for him. He's a good-looking guy. He's very smart. He's educated. He attracted women. He was outgoing. People liked him. There's one guy in there who says he was a nice guy. He liked him. But they didn't see the other side. They didn't see the mask that he kept hidden, the real him. It wasn't like, lonely kind of loser like Dahmer, who was like off by himself, an alcoholic, living in a shithole in Milwaukee. Ted seemed to have connections, and whatever reason, as the judge said, you went the other way. And a couple comments, people, it is I know some people have mentioned they don't like the idea that people have said he's attractive, and there's a degree of uncomfortable. There's like degree of discomfort in admitting that, yes, he's got nice blue eyes. Yes, when they put his face on the cover and he's smiling, he's got the little smile lines and, the whiskers, and it's almost like he looks like a 70s folk singer or something. And that he could do these things. It affects anyone. And in this whole idea, he doesn't look like someone who would blank, You know, as Ted Bundy even said, you know, we don't have horns on our head. We're not drooling at the mouth. We blend in. You know, the psychopaths and the narcissists, they blend in, and very often will approach you like they're a friend of yours. And then as you get to know them, some weird shit happens. I think Ted Bundy is the extreme psychopathy example of how bad it can get. Most of them fly under the radar, though. They're not going to commit murder, but they're going to make your life hell. They're going to lie to you pathologically. They're going to make shit up. They don't care if they emotionally hurt you. They don't care. If you're hurt, you're just too sensitive. It's your fault. You know, so overall, I do recommend it. I would have liked to have seen more stories about the victims, but it is what it is. And it did give, you know, for anyone not knowing much about Bundy, or if you're just interested in true crime, I definitely recommend it. So I hope you all have a good rest of your day, and I'll be in touch soon in the next video. Thank you for listening. Bye.